Welcome to GODSpeed, where truth meets life in under 10 minutes. I'm AK, and this is hope for your journey. You know that feeling when you owe someone money? And every time you see them, there's this tension in your chest. You avoid eye contact and conversation. You take the long way around, and you just hope they don't bring it up because you can't fully relax until it's paid. And now, what if I told you there's a debt you're supposed to carry for the rest of your life? And it's actually the most freeing thing you can imagine. Life is tricky. And when you add in people, it gets even more complicated. So Paul, who was a follower of Jesus, wrote letters to a group of people in Rome, offering them instructions on how to live and interact with one another. He's calling for unity, but in a surprisingly simple way, in a world that really makes everything too complicated. So let's jump in there. This comes from Romans chapter 13, verses 8 through 10. Owe nothing to anyone except for your obligation to love one another. If you love your neighbor, you will fulfill the requirements of God's law. For the commandments say, you must not commit adultery, you must not murder, you must not steal, you must not covet. These and other such commandments are summed up in this one commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to others. So love fulfills the requirements of God's law. Love is the one debt we must carry every single day. And it's the only thing that truly works. And you might be asking, what's love got to do with it? But Paul's audience would have been very accustomed to complex social rules. These long lists of do's and don'ts that were hard to remember and harder to follow. There were laws for everything, regulations for every situation, and this constant pressure of wondering if you were doing enough, if you were good enough, and if you were following all the rules perfectly. But Paul offers a simpler method. Love. Real love satisfies all the qualifications. It covers all wrongs and works in every geography, language, and relationship type. It doesn't matter if you're in Rome or New York, whether you're talking to family or strangers, whether it's work or the gym, love is the answer. Paul says all those commandments that you might read, don't murder, don't steal, don't cheat, they're all summed up in this one thing. Love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you genuinely love someone, you're not going to intentionally harm them. You're not going to take from them. You're not going to deceive them. And that's powerful because instead of a list of rules to follow, we get one simple guiding principle. Love people. It fulfills everything. And now, I want to give a working definition of love. Because depending on your life's experiences, you may have in your mind a very different description than what love actually looks like. And that's fair, because we all experience love differently. But I'm working from what Paul writes in another letter, 1 Corinthians 13, where he breaks down what love is. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. That's the standard. Not an occasional feeling, not when it's convenient, but this deliberate, active choice to be patient, kind, selfless, forgiving, enduring. So when Paul says, owe nothing to anyone except love, he's talking about that kind of love. The kind that sacrifices, puts others first, and refuses to keep score. And before you head out to live this moment, I want to give a challenge for us all. Let's pay on this debt every day. Let's meet this obligation, loving people more often than you have to, more generously than you're expected to. Look for opportunities to be patient when you could jump to conclusions, to forgive when you have every right to hold a grudge. As I think about this, in my opinion, it is the one great use of our life. Not accumulating stuff, not getting some title, not protecting your comfort at all costs, but loving people. The imperfect, complicated, hurting people in the same way you'd want to be loved. And the thing about this debt, this obligation, you never fully repay it. And that's the point. Love isn't meant to be checked off a list. It's meant to be how we live every day with everyone. More often than you have to, more generously than you ought to. God, help me love the person in front of me as if they were me. Amen.
I will always love you how I do. Let go of a prayer for you, just a sweet word